beide machen eine deutsche Gruppe.
Okay, in English and Portuguese. Okay, well, come. Okay, so you might have already felt the difference in this part of the forest. It's the big difference to most of the landscape around here is the humidity and this microclimate that the native forest brings. So at this point of the landscape, we're still close to which would be the river line. It's the Pedumont, and this is where the big oak trees and the cork oaks would be. And as we move further up, you'll see the vegetation change, and there'll be less big oak trees, and there'll be more madroño and other smaller shrubs. The owner was luckily he knew Claudia and Udo, and he followed their recommendations to not intervene, to just leave the forest as it is. Don't plant anything, don't cut anything, just let it do what it does, and it will come back. And he followed their recommendations, and today it is, as you can see, the only evidence is a little bit of burnt bark on the cork trees, but everything comes back to where it was. This is just from a cork tree that's died, and it's been found in the forest, and you see it hasn't been harvested because there's no cut, so it's intact, and this makes it very easy to do what I do. And this is the back side, and the entrance is obviously on the other end. I did this for the first time this way because of the forks in the trees, and I just put it in a tree, and it was very simple, and I thought this might work, and it did. So I was very surprised too, but I'd read a lot about bees, and I'd spoken to some people about it, and I thought what I was doing could work, and it did. So
the bees came in naturally.
The bees came in naturally. So the first hive I made, I'll show you down there. I set it up on the land where I live with my parents, and from what I read, I thought, okay, if I do this and prepare it, put some wax inside and rub it down with some lemon balm, and you know, hope for it, the bees will come. And I waited for like a month or so, and then I saw the first scout bees coming, and I really couldn't believe it. And then one day I was working near the hive, and I saw a swarm come across the valley like a cloud, and they just...
You saw it?
I saw it. I filmed everything. It's crazy. And I sat there and watched them move in, and that's what got me into bees. And I saw this, and then funnily enough, like half an hour or so afterwards, another small swarm came, which now I realized could have been a secondary swarm. And it came towards the hive as well. I was like, whoa, and then it moved away, and I followed it. Yeah, and I followed it into the forest, and eventually it stopped on a bush. And I'd never done anything like that before, and I only had one other cork hive, and I got it, and I got the swarm, and I shook it in the hive and put it in the tree.
Wow.
And that's how it began for me. This was, you know, just over, or not last spring, 2 springs ago, 2020 spring. So something also I should mention about these hives is this cork that I use is of very little value to the cork industry. So I can get it at very, very reasonable prices. And it looks really nice as well, very camouflaged. Yeah, so that's it, but maybe we'll say a little prayer, maybe next year they'll get some bees. But this will be nice because it's different. It's a very different landscape to a lot of the places where we have. I mean, it's, you know, a natural forest, but it's in a different stage as some of the other places. So it'll be interesting to see the development.
And they have companion. They have ants. Lots of
Yeah,
ants.
so something also with these hives, because also this cork is full of holes, it's not, you know, very perfect. There's always lots of other animals. It's never just the bees. Even when there's bees in there, there can be carpenter bees, you know, solitary bees living next door. There'll be geckos under there and spiders and all kinds of animals, big beetles and birds and, you know, snakes, whoever wants to move in, mice. So it's like a little hotel for everybody.
May I add about the cork tree? As you see, it was never stripped. It's not rare that we are encountered with question if the cork trees do not need to get rid of the cork. But this shows the nature understanding of some people. No, the cork oak will grow much more years without being stripped. But now always we have only Jack as bee specialist. Now I have some others here and I can make a good question. Don't you think that the opening is too big?
No.
It's a good point, and it was a question I had, and it's always, if you make it big, they can make it small, but if you make it small, they can't make it big. So I'll just give you a bit of a historical background of how I got into bees. I grew up here, so I was born in England, but I grew up in the valley just around the corner, close to Udo and Claudia, with my brother, the chef, and my family from England. We have lots of land, and I've always been passionate about nature and animals, but I never realized how amazing the bee world was until one day a friend of mine came to my house specifically to tell me, Jack, you need to have bees. And I said, really? He's like, yeah, they're amazing. You're telling me about it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm actually going away, and I went to Australia for a couple of years. And while I was there for the first year, bees just kept coming into my life. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. And I kept getting books and people. And anyway, and then I got into the natural side of treatment-free beekeeping and natural tree beekeeping and all these kinds of different to the conventional. No pesticides was my main. I thought, why do I want bees if I have to treat them with chemicals? I don't think, why would I need to, you know? So I started studying a bit, and then I came back to Portugal, and soon realized how the local Portuguese and other people in the Iberian Peninsula had their hives made from cork for hundreds of years, and I thought, well, this is definitely the way to go. So I didn't have any cork at the time. They just harvested the cork from my parents' land, and I didn't have any, so I went to try to find some, and I managed to get this one, and it wasn't a very wide piece like the traditional, so I thought, well, if it's a bit too thin, maybe I can use it differently, and I'll use it horizontally. So I took the hive, and all I did was, this was harvested from a tree, and at the time I closed it with some wire, like the traditional way, and then since then I've replaced it with some wooden pegs, and I've even tied it with some cordage from tree bark, and I just put this in a tree. So, like this, and I set it in the tree, and then I use this wooden structure and I put it over the top of the hive like this. So you've got the fork coming out here, and this just stops the hive from moving, and I have a little roof. Very simple, and I thought, well, you know, in nature there's going to be stuff like this surely. And yeah, within a few weeks after I put a bit of comb in there and I rubbed it with some lemon balm, the first scout bees showed up, and I was really surprised. I wasn't expecting what was going to happen, and I was working one day in front of the hive or nearby, and I heard something like a helicopter or something, and a swarm came across the valley, and I was lucky enough to be there, and I watched the whole thing, and they all moved in, and they all moved inside the entrance, and I just, you know, no words really. And then like half an hour later, even more crazy, like another swarm came, which must have been a secondary swarm. And I was like, what's going on? Dude, like I'd never seen a swarm, you know, I just read about them and watched videos, and then suddenly it was all happening very fast. And this swarm moved off into the forest, and I chased it and found it, and it was on a bush. And then I had only one more cork hive, and I took it there, and I was with my father, and he's like, what do you do? I was like, it's okay, we take the bees and we put them in the hive. And I walked it all the way home, put it in a tree, and they lived there. And I had another hive that I collected a swarm, and they lived for over 1.5 years, and they didn't make it after that, but it gave me hope, you know. They didn't live forever, you know, but I thought I might be onto something here. There might be some reason why this is working. And then luckily enough, I started getting involved with people that are doing these things, and I met Anneliek through someone in America who put me in contact with Mikotila, and I was like, classic, you know. I'm talking to someone in America who's introducing me to someone in Odmira. I was like, yeah, classic. So I've learned a lot since then, but basically I started with these horizontals, and then I tried to do some more traditional style, but these are a bit harder to put in the trees just because of the way they sit. This is a lot easier, so I focused on these. We have a lot more of these. So after my first year, I thought, let's try put more of these up, and I put up about 30 on different properties, and not more than 2 or 3 on a piece of land, but from Odmira to Lagos and into the mountains of Moshik a little bit. Just tried to spread them out and try to experiment, see what works, see what doesn't work. And we have some colonies that are surviving, and lots that die. That's just the way it goes. But it's really very interesting, and I'm still learning a lot, and I'm really grateful to meet people like you that can teach me so much. So this is it. This was the first one I made. You can come and have a look. This has had the original colony live inside, and since then another colony's been inside. It's completely covered in propolis. It smells incredible, and the original design was just this with a cork door. It's all natural materials, just wooden handles and pegs made from stevas or from the gum cistus or from heather, and the white stuff is clay. I just used to fill the holes. The bees often take it off and make a door or whatever they want to do, but for my first 2 years I never saw inside of this until they died, so I just watched it from the outside. Then I thought, okay, well, I started working with a friend, a carpenter, Leo. He couldn't make it today, and he came up with an idea. We put a window in, so he made it the interior door, so that goes inside and is fixed again with clay, and then this one goes on top, so you can come in and just have a look, see what they're doing. And the bees have really finished the work off. You can see they glued it in, so they're very amazing. And yeah, so the combs are really incredible in these natural hives. This is one of the hives. So this was the second swarm I ever collected at my neighbor's house. At Miguel that was with us yesterday. I told him about what happened this day, and he said, that's crazy, man, I've never seen a swarm. And then he calls me the next day, he said, Jack, there's a swarm outside my house. So I was like, what? We went there and we collected it.
They really wanted you to be with them.
Sorry?
They really wanted you to be with them.
I don't know, but something's going on. And anyway, I put this swarm in this hive, and they lived for 18 months. And then when they stopped, when their activity stopped, I opened it up, and this was the first thing I saw. So it was the last comb, and this was like just the most incredible piece of art. You know, it's so thick and just incredible, and each successive comb had different smells and different flavors, and it was really amazing. So and then I tried this is another one near my house, and this is the entrance of this hive. So that's what I did, and we have a lot of these up now. What I've tried to take a lot of notes. I'd like to show this to the beekeepers to see what they think. I've just taken a lot of notes about what I see, what time of day, the weather, the pollen, what's coming in, just to get maybe some record of why they're dying and when, and just some kind of data. And I've tried different exits, different entrances, different sizes, orientations, lots of different things to try and establish some kind of, you know, correlation between survival rates and what I'm doing. The only real thing that I've figured out so far is that when I use these kind of hives, so this is from a dead cork tree found in the forest that the cork people have collected, and it has all the rotten wood inside, and it's very easy to make a hive. So I just put a block on there and one at the other end, it's even got a hole, you know, just put it in the tree and there you go. Where these ones, if they've been harvested, I have to close the cut, and it's a bit more work, and they on the inside, the cork is like this, it's super smooth, and it takes more time, I think, for them to cover it in propolis. So with this one, all of the ones that we have now that are surviving, they are in these kind of hives. So I don't know, maybe there's a link with the mycelium, the rotting wood. It's more of this situation with the clean hive, they wouldn't find ever in nature. So maybe this is what they prefer. Maybe the irregularities of the surface or something with the propolis. Okay, this is a hive that we had installed up there where Udo may have shown you guys, and I pointed out. It's more based on the traditional model. This was made by a beekeeper that used to have bees in cortiços, in these cork hives. I've changed it a bit, made a bit more of a natural roof with a bit of clay, and it had a cover on the bottom, but you can still see there might be some comb in there. There's a bit of comb, you can all have a look. I recycle the comb and use it for new hives, to bait new hives, because I had quite a difficulty in finding non-treated comb when I started, so I keep it and I you know, use it sparingly. But that's kind of what this one did. But this was here installed not this spring, so the spring before, and we have one of these models in another tree. Last year no one moved in, and then this year a colony moved into this one in early April, and then I think survived for about 4 months, and then it just ran out of food. When I opened this, was no honey, there's pretty much nothing, just empty combs. So I've got lots of photos and some data. But we're trying with these. Like I said, there's a bit more work to make and to install. So I've gone for a bit more of a quantity over these kinds. So we have a lot more of these, and we're just learning really. So that's what I'm doing. So with the association, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of people with the right frame of mind to take on these kind of projects. A lot of people want bees, and the first thing you ask is, well, what about the honey? And I said, well, I can't give you any honey. You know, if they want to give you some honey, well, it's up to you. But we have a lot of people that are interested, and we have really spread out in some really amazing forests. And there's something that we also have realized, is that the more native the forest, the higher the chance of the survival is at the moment, from what I've seen. It's not 100% conclusive. I can't say. I think it's going to take a long time. But that's pretty much it. And like I say, I don't take any honey while they're alive, but when they do, you know, when they do fail, I'll take a bit of honey. We'll take what's in there, and it's the best I've ever tried. You know, it's unreal. And all the propolis, and just being able to sit with the bees. You guys know, anyone that's had bees, it's just. So that's what I'm doing. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, but come.